Hey everybody, good evening. So we're going to take a little trip down memory lane. My cousin Chad, hey Chad, thank you so much for subscribing, thank you for liking, and thank you for letting me know what you might want to hear. So Chad wanted to maybe take a trip down memory lane, and he said it would be awesome if I included some of the memories together. So I said, oh, you know what? I think I can do that. I have a good one. So back when, well, 30 years ago, I lived in West Cliff, Colorado, and Silver Cliff, Colorado, up in Custer County at the base of the Sangria de Cristo Mountains. Bobby Kay was 9 months old when we moved there, and her sister Cecilia moved up there with us a year later. She stayed with her mom for a year and then decided that she would come out and live with us in that little town. While we were there, Chad had just gotten out of the Navy. And he was kind of trying to find his direction and decide what he was going to do with his life. And so he was kind of hanging out with us. So we were just kind of a little family up there, working and doing. During that time, Thad and I owned what I like to call disposable cars. So we would buy an older model car that had a lot of miles on it, and we'd drive it till it broke and then just get rid of it. You know, we didn't have any car payments. We didn't pay a lot of money for them. We didn't have to have full coverage insurance, so our insurance was really low on them. And it was just kind of an economical way for us to be able to have vehicles. So when we lived up there, my family, of course, has always been in Shamrock, Texas, and so we would drive back for holidays. And so we'd load up in one of those disposable cars, and here we come to Shamrock. It's about an 8-hour drive, I think. Even then I had no fear. What would happen if you get side of the road and it breaks down? Well, we'll deal with that when it came. Bobby Kay was an infant. Cecilia was a teenager. She was probably either in junior high or high school. And Chad was, fresh out of the Navy. We took off in, I think it was a Jeep Wagoneer. Can't remember for sure, but anyway, it had all kinds of quirks in it that we took it to Shamrock for probably a holiday of some type. So we came down to Shamrock and we visited with our family, and then we headed back home. Just outside of Trinidad, lo and behold, our disposable car broke down. So we're probably, like I said, about 15 minutes out of Trinidad. Chad and I are trying to decide what we're going to do. Cars are just driving past like crazy. Nobody has stopped. But even if they did, what would we do? How would we help it? We're over halfway there. We're pretty close, really, to Wilsonburg. It's just down the road a little ways. So Chad and I were weighing our options, what we're going to do, how we're going to handle this. And lo and behold, pulling up behind us is the Colorado Highway Patrol. Now, I wasn't too nervous about it, but as I think back, I kind of recollect that maybe I didn't even have liability insurance on the car. So I was like, oh no, busted. But the highway patrolman comes out. Where were my priorities, right? I'm taking trips back and forth to Texas as opposed to buy liability insurance on my car. But anyway, Remember this is 30 years ago. We didn't have cell phones. You couldn't just pick up a phone and call somebody for help. So anyway, the highway patrolman's there. He comes up, says, is there something I can do? What can I do to help you? And I'm like, well, it's broke down. We live in Westcliff, and I think if we could just make it to Walsenburg, that probably we could get someone to meet us there and give us and pick us up and get us home, and we'll get over here and get the Jeep tomorrow or this weekend sometime. And he says, well, just give me some names, some phone numbers, and I'll see what I can do. So he goes back to the car, and his car makes some radio correspondence. And then, Chad and I kind of discuss what we're going to do, and Cecilia, we're all trying to figure out, what's going to happen. He comes back and he says, okay, we've got it all worked out. Probably took him about 15 minutes. So I think we got it all worked out. They're going to meet you in Wilsonburg. Somebody's going to pick you up in Wilsonburg. We're like, oh, okay, well, that's cool. He said, I'll give you a ride. So I was like, oh, wow, all right, that's cool. So the four of us start gathering everything up, the things that we needed overnight before we would be able to get back to the car. And so we gather everything up and start getting into the highway patrolman's car. And I'm getting in the back seat, and I said, officer, I have a gun. And I don't want to leave it in the car overnight. And he said, you have it with you now? And I said, yeah, I brought it. And he said, well, is it loaded? And I said, well, yeah. And he said, well, unload it. So I took the bullets out and put them in my pocket and or in my purse, or I don't remember. Anyway, I had possession of the gun and the bullets in the back of the car with this highway patrolman. Now remember that he never even asked me for my driver's license. He didn't have my driver's license number. He didn't ask for my registration. He didn't ask me for my insurance. Nothing. Just names and numbers of who I was and who I was needing to get in touch with. And he let me get in the car with a gun and bullets. And we drove to Walsenburg and made it all happen. It worked out. And I think the whole moral, the thing that I think back about this story, and the reason that I even want to share it with anybody is to think, how would that scenario be in 2023? People don't drive older cars. Most people just don't. They don't go anywhere if they have an older vehicle. I do. I have a 1995 Honda Civic with 338,000 miles on it. It's not a disposable car. I've put a lot of miles on that car, and it just keeps on going. But besides for that, everybody has a liability insurance. If a highway patrolman pulled up behind you when you have broken down, take my word for it, I've had it happen. First thing they're going to ask for is your driver's license. So they're going to have that information, they're going to have your registration, and they're going to have your insurance. They're going to ask for it immediately. And I give it to them, Now I happen to have liability insurance. Yay me, I've grown up a little bit in the last 30 years. But I think the thing is that I would imagine that highway patrolmen just almost aren't even allowed to put anybody in a vehicle with them. That's not, I don't know. I don't know the rules, but I can't imagine that they would put a family of 4 in a vehicle, and especially with a gun. I'd have a gun, and I know I was a woman with children and all that stuff, but still, who knows? Like, you can't trust anybody, can you? Can you? Can you trust anybody? Yeah, you could trust me. But he didn't know that. And I can guarantee you that wouldn't happen now. If I said, hey, I have a pistol, he would be, I don't know. I wouldn't be getting in a car with him. I can just tell you that. But wouldn't it be nice if we could just take a step back and you could just kind of, you could trust people in that way. That raw innocence. The fact that he didn't have to have all my information to help me. And I have such, I've been helped so many times by highway patrolmen, the police. They started my car, they helped me change flats. I guess it's because I've been a single woman so long, and even when I wasn't a single woman, I still traveled alone a lot. But I drove those disposable cars, so so I've always, I've had help from them, and they do their role to protect and serve and protect, and thank goodness for that. But wouldn't it be nice if we could just kind of take it back 30 years to where we had a society that cared for each other, that would make a radio call to get someone to meet you together, because now I have my cell phone, but then we didn't. And it took a joint effort. And gosh, I think it would be great if we could have that again. Hey, thanks for listening to my story about neon blends. And you guys subscribe. And thanks. Have a wonderful, wonderful evening.